in chat, but we just have a jam-packed schedule. So we'll move right along. Next up, we have Mark Jones. Are you there, Mark? I think I saw you join through the backstage.
Yes, I'm here. Yep. Hi.
Perfect. How are you doing today?
All good. All good.
Perfect.
Hi.
Yeah, we might just have you get kicked off whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just get my screen sharing here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yes. Yeah,
Great.
looks good. We can't see you though, Mark. I don't know, is your
Okay.
camera
I know.
on?
I just turned my
You're
my
you're
camera
fine.
off.
If you would like it off, it's up to you. Just
Yeah.
don't know
It's
if you
probably
thought it was
just
on.
no,
You're
no.
all
It's just probably easier to just leave it off.
okay. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. Hi. My name is Mark Jones. I have been working in NCAD for the past over 18 years, and I've worked in assistive technology for two of those years as an assistive technology technician. The thing that I found when I was an assistive technology technician was the fact that that everything was all of the AT tools that you had available were scattered in various different locations. So if you wanted something like a screen color overlay, you had to get a specific app for Mac and then a specific app for PC and things like that. So it was everything was very much fragmented, and I also noticed that that a lot of students or institutions were using paid services, which obviously has an impact not only on the institution but also on the student, and especially when the student leaves college, where that support basically disappears. So sorry, sorry, I forgot to change my slides there. Yeah, so it was mainly looking at things from the perspective of the barriers that were existing for students. And especially say things like sort of students where English was not first language. And obviously, point four there is support cliff when students graduate, then everything disappears. Um, the idea specifically was to get as many tools as we can into the one extension, and to try and cover as many of the conditions that would be prevalent in learning support. So I'll quickly fly through these, and then I'll just run a demo for you. So things like text to speech, speech to text, reading mode, where you can sort of remove a lot of the ads and things like that from the UI, and then different types of dyslexia modes, OCR, things like that. Speech to text alongside text to speech obviously is fairly important, especially somebody that has motor difficulties. Um, Things like sort of color overlays and focus modes and reading guides and reducing motion, all small tools that when you combine them together can have a meaningful impact on how, say, a neurodivergent student can learn. And again, these are just quickly going over these features. I will demo these now in a little moment. The LMS side of things, so the say Canvas and Classroom and Moodle, basically the extension uses a translator to because each one of those systems are built slightly differently in relation to the HTML code that they use. So the LMS is basically a translator, so any of the functionality will work properly on the learning management systems. And then topic of the moment is AI. So there's a number of AI tools that I've incorporated into this, and that's no subscription. So I'll just quickly jump in then into the demo. Nope, I won't do that. So sorry. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly add this on the Chrome Web Store. And the first thing that'll happen is you'll get this AI setup. If you don't want to have AI in your in the extension, you can just skip this setup. This will basically scan your system to see what is the best option for you as a user. Local is pretty much the one that I focus on because of obviously GDPR constraints. So there's two local modes where you can use like sort of Olama, which is an AI engine that like hosts LLMs. And there's a built-in one into Chrome. Or sorry, there's a cloud AI and then there's a built-in one in Chrome. This particular system has Olama installed, so it's going to recommend that one automatically. If you want to like sort of to say use an API key, you can just click on this one, and then you can enter in your API key here, and then that will just automatically it'll automatically load that into your system. So I'll just go back here and we'll use Olama. And then you can install these models very simply on your system. And I'll just click on continue. And then these are just like sort of some quick questions for users to get an idea of what should be able to help them, what tools and functionality will help them. I'll just use these three setups. And then this is just a little section that tests to make sure that everything is working properly. And I'll just turn all these off. Just for a start. So once the extension is installed, you'll find that it will ask you to enable everywhere. This is a constraint of Chrome's terms and conditions, where they don't allow all URLs to be set by default. So this button is basically allowing the extension to use on all websites. So once I enable this, this will now work on every website. So I'll just quickly go through some of the functionalities on it. So these are all of your default tools. So at the top, I have this text stats, so I can show and hide this if you want to see how many how much content is on the page and roughly how long it's going to take. You can also have this speed read section. I'll just turn that off. There's TTS. So I'll just click
the
on
concept of neuroplasticity.
I'll click on this and I can set the color, the speed, the pitch, the volume. I can also set this to highlight word by word, or I can set to read the whole page or just paragraphs. I just normally leave it on paragraphs. The space bar pauses and restarts as well. Reading help. We'll just knock this off. And then we have reading mode, which is quite an interesting one. So on reading mode, if I just jump onto this page, it's a little bit more representative. So with reading mode, if I enter reading mode, that'll get rid of everything pretty much from the page, bar the content and the main header image. So again, it just makes it easier, removes clutter, visual clutter for students. So that's just reading mode. Let me see. So dyslexia mode as well. There's 3 modes in dyslexia mode. So that's bionic reading, syllable colors, and grammar colors. So again, I've read a few reports about like how certain students would find this quite useful. It's sort of like a Marmite thing, though. I'm sure that similar to say Open Dyslexic as a font, some students find it massively helpful and some students don't find any benefit whatsoever. So writing help, we have sticky notes. Sticky notes, I'll just close this. Sticky notes allow you to embed sticky notes into web pages. So if I just type in a note in here and I go on to, I'll just copy this URL and go to a different page and then go back. The sticky note is basically embedded into the web page. So that's quite useful if you're just find keeping track of things like sort of a little bit more difficult. You can easily just go back there and add a sticky note. Speech to text. Speech to text. This works fine on all websites. It can have a little bit of a problem with local websites like this particular demo page, where it keeps on asking you permission. This will work absolutely fine on any web-based URLs. So, hello, show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I want to go to bed. Sorry. So this will type out your text, and then you can copy and paste it into other sections. Um, the main functionality, a lot of the functionality is built around this quick action mode. Um, so when I select some text, I'll get this little pop-up. So if I say wanted to find out the meaning of this word here, I can just click on this, and then that'll bring up a dictionary definition. I can also call up a certain body of text if I wanted to translate this. So we have a translator on this. So this is French, and we'll translate to English. So again, like sort of people with whose first language is not English would probably find this useful. So I'll just click off that. Um, You also in this section have read aloud as well. So if you just wanted to select some text, this is quite easy way
Select
of
any
doing
word
that.
in the passage.
And I can also add in annotations. So if I say like this particular body of text and I wanted to, again, sorry, I'm just going to type in some stuff here. And actually, I'll do this on an actual web page here. So I'm going to add an annotation here. And then click on save. And now that annotation is embedded into the text. So how am I doing time-wise? I'll just turn this off. This is a dictionary section. This is a free key. There is a limit to the amount of like sort of usage you can get out of this. There's obviously options where you can enter in an API key if you like. This is to show and hide the quick actions menu. And you can turn on and off each one of these functionalities. Another one on the quick action menu is RSVP for speed reading. And I can speed up or slow down that as well. Now, where are we? Reading aids. I have text customization as well. So I can change the font on this. I've got Open Dyslexic on here. Can adjust the line spacing, letter spacing, word spacing, and paragraph spacing as we like. I'll just turn that off now. And then we've got reading guide. Again, just fairly self-explanatory, just so people can keep track of where they're reading. And we'll just jump over to this page here. I've got reading progress as well, which gives you a progress bar at the top of the page. So this little green bar will increase in size as you scroll down the page. So it's just a visual cue to allow a student to get a feedback for how far they are through their particular document that they're reading. Pointers and zooms. You can change cursor size if you like. There's also a magnifying lens, which allows you to zoom in. I can increase the size of that, or increase the magnification and increase the size of the window. And I can also offset from the cursor. So say somebody with something like Stargardt's disease, where they have a black spot in the center of their eye, it would be useful to have this offset from the center. So that's the reason why that is there. Visual comfort, focus modes. So I can have this window larger or smaller, increase or decrease the overlay, just to, again, blocking out stimuli. Screen color overlay is pretty much self-explanatory. So we can turn this on, change colors, increase the intensity of that. Reduce motion is quite useful as well. If you have Where's my reduce motion? So if you have like sort of lots of scrolling elements and things like that, and objects moving around the screen, like reduce motion will basically pause all of that. So there we go. So that's going to stop all that motion on the screen. And you also have video autoplay blocking here as well. Under productivity, we have a simplified interface. So the simplified interface removes things like ads. Um, Again, just it's more about removing elements that are going to be a blocker for students' learning. So I can turn that on, and then we have a Pomodoro timer as well, just for students who want to keep track of their time and their studying. And let's turn that off. And under school tools is where you'll find like sort of the LMSs. And a lot of that detail is contained within the settings. This extension, by the way, is launching on Thursday. I'll have a full suite of how-to guides on YouTube for the launch. So if I'm in the advanced options here, I can turn on and off different LMSs as well. So that's I fairly flew through that. So I could just have a little bit of time on the cloud, or sorry, on the AI side. So there's 7 or 8 main tools. For this particular demo, I'm actually using cloud. I'm using a Anthropic model because the local models, even though they run fine, they tend to be a little bit slow. So just for making sure that everything goes smoothly, I'm just using this cloud model. So summarization. Oh, perfect. Murphy's Law. Sorry, I just make sure that this is loaded in correctly. Set up AI here. Okay, now this should fix that. So if I select some text, I can click on my summarize button, and then this will generate a summary for me. I can have 3 different like levels of summary. So obviously, detail will give you far more information. Um, so these are all built on effectively text prompts as well. So I would see the AI area of the extension as being the area that requires most development. And I think for that development, we'll need like sort of input from academics and from learning support to see how well the output is working and whether it's relevant. So that's summarization. Text simplification. Again, if like sort of if a student finds it difficult to keep track of like sort of dense, heavy academic language, this is very useful for them. So I can just click on this button here and it will generate a simplified version. And again, I've got 3 options. I can do a basic one, which will be quite short. And I can go all the way up to academic, which will be far more detailed. Assignment breakdown is useful again if a student gets an assignment. Um, Maybe they don't know like sort of how to properly handle that particular assignment. So this gives you a breakdown into small manageable chunks of what you should do and the order you should do it in. Socratic Tutor is a mode that will ask you questions to be able to see whether or not you understand the content as well. And all of these bar the knowledge graph are basically built on the same thing. They're all effectively just prompts, so text prompts. Knowledge graph will generate a knowledge graph for you. Again, just helping with understanding. And let's looking a little bit messy. So I'll just click on this and bring it around. So yeah, that's again, it's just helping students like understand the content. Study path generator again is something similar to breakdown assignment, except it's more academic leaning. So again, it'll just give you a quick like sort of run through of how you should like sort of you should get through your content. Citation Analyzer is flagged as being in beta still because it's still not there. I wouldn't probably use this as yet because obviously citations are very important in relation to the academic work. And then there's a multi-doc compare section where I can load up one text and load up a second text and compare those two texts together. You know, so yeah, and also at the top here, you'll see that there's this Discover Tools. So I can click on this and this will guide me through the process. So like it'll ask me specific questions about your condition and what like sort of what helps and what doesn't help. I've broken these down into like sort of into small manageable chunks. If students want to answer more questions to get more granular control, they can open up this and just go through that, and then that'll automatically activate any of the tools that you will find useful. Um, so yeah, sorry, I flew through that. Is there any questions?
Yeah, huge thanks, Mark. A lot of kind of really cool tools going on and a lot of people really impressed in the chat there. Somebody's asking, does Assist only work in Chrome or in other web browsers?
That is part of my development plan on it is to make it across all browsers. Chromium being the main browser, like so that's Brave and Edge and Chrome. That seemed like the logical choice for a starting point. Safari, or sorry, not Safari. Firefox is going to be reasonably easy to port. But Safari will be more challenging because the backend technology is a lot different. So it's pretty much going to have to be a build from scratch. So I'm that's definitely on my to-do list as things to do in relation to developing this further.
Yeah, I get you. And Scott is saying it worked on MS Edge for them, so good
Yeah,
to know.
great.
Someone's asking in the chat there, can you tell us more about the LMS integration? So lots of issues with AT not fully working with various systems due to restrictions, etc., especially
Hmm.
with quiz or assessment tools. So any answer there?
Yeah. Sorry, just give me a second. I actually have a document. So I can share this document later. LMS integration is probably at the top of the list in relation to what I want to do with the extension, certainly over the next couple of months. Um, Integrating directly into specific LMS systems can be challenging because the back end technology is controlled by those providers, which means that they can like sort of send out say an API update that breaks functionality. So it's a difficult thing to like sort of to get started, but once it's up and running, I'm sure it'll be fine. So things like quiz mode detection, discussions thread, um, due date awareness, notifications, things like that. Again, I can share this file with you guys if you want to see where we're going in relation to the extension. But most of these functionalities will work across all three main LMS Classroom, Canvas, and Moodle.
Cool. Yeah, good answer. Loads of questions coming in the chat there. So Neve is wondering if the webinar is recorded. It is recorded. Neve, I have an answer to this one, surprisingly. So we'll be kind of pulling together all the recordings, making sure the captions are functioning there, and then we'll send out the link to the recording so you'll be able to see that. The slides are available on our website, which was shared in the chat earlier, but we might pop it back into the chat so you can see the slides.
Mhm.
A lot of people just saying it's really cool, really cool system and nice to have kind of everything you need in one spot. Anne is wondering where they can get details of the launch this week. Do you know that one, Mark?
It's actually on the website. Sorry, this is one of these names. I created the name of this company from my two children, so it's a bit
Oh,
difficult to pronounce. Fiavion.com, FIAVAION.com.
cool.
That's the URL where the Assist extension is living. Being quite honest, it's the extension is up now as a soft launch. So if anybody wants to go along and test it, that'd be
Yeah.
great. And feedback would be fantastic as well, because the knowledge that I had in my 2 years in assistive technology were very useful to inform this development. But I need more. The more information I get, the more suggestions I get, the better we're going to be able to make this.
Yeah.
This is like, to my mind, this is the foundation of what it can be.
Mm.
There's certainly an awful lot more that could be done, like the LMS enhancements.
Yeah. And someone was also asking about kind of hiding functions that students don't need, which you covered later on. So I know that
Yeah,
question was already answered.
I've got if you come in here to features,
Hmm.
you can turn on and off every feature.
Cool.
So
Yeah,
I can knock off it is a bit cluttered. Um, I said the LMS was like sort of was the first thing I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is do a UI overhaul of the extension. It's a little bit
but it's only because you've thought of everything. So it's a good reason.
thanks.
Another person asking there, is it difficult to get or set up an API key?
No, no. There's um you basically now from the API keys side of things, there's a cheap or there's a free, effectively a free way. You can just do a quick search for free Google API key, and you'll get an API key that will work for a reasonable amount of time. If you're throwing loads of requests at it, it'll throw up an error. But like it's pretty much as free as you can get. The local side of things, I think, is where from the GDPR perspective, I think that's going to be the best for a lot of people. Um, any provider, if you just say something like Anthropic API key, you'll get the result in the first two or three entries on Google. Um,
Okay.
and I just have another just for anybody interested. There's basically this is Anthropic, which is the tool that I use most, mainly because the data protection side of things, they're a lot better than the other providers. And also so they delete older data. They don't train data. They don't use the models to train or use your input to train the models. And also they have far better research functionality, which again, like leans quite heavily into the third level academic side of things.
Mm.
But if you're using, say, heavy usage on like sort of on say the lowest model, you're probably talking about like sort of a dollar, or that should be a euro a month for a student. If you're doing things that are more complicated, obviously you'll use better models, which will charge you more. Um, but this, like the Haiku one, is very, very like affordable. A euro a month or slightly more is actually quite good. But the
Yeah.
local side of things, I think, is where the strength will lie. The only downside of that is you need to have reasonable hardware to run it.
Mm. Cool. And just maybe a final question there. So someone's asking about the accessibility of the extension and is it compliant with the EAA or have you done any tests there?
Yes, yeah, no, that's one of the reasons why it looks like it does, because like it's fully compliant in accessibility. Yeah.
Perfect. And just a lot of people saying huge thank yous. I know someone mentioned that it's kind of condensed three of the tools that they use for their students into one place. So just a lot of huge thank yous. And yeah, thank you so much for your time, Mark. I think
Yeah.
it's very helpful for a lot of our audience.
Great. And feel free to get in touch with me. I'll just add my email into the chat here. I'm happy to hear like sort of to hear feedback. Even at this stage. As I said, it's I see it as a team effort, so
Yeah.
we can get this to be far better than it is, even though it is reasonably comprehensive at this stage. I think there's still a lot more that we can do. Things like dysarthria. It hits close to home because I've got a son who has a condition that does so. allowing text or speech to text to understand somebody's like sort of a speech impediment, those type of things. That's where again I'd like that's where my heart is in
Mm,
relation to that, because obviously it's something that I can use with my son.
yeah.
But yeah, so sorry, I'll stop talking now.
No, you're all good. Thank you so much, Mark, and thanks for kind of sharing your own personal story too. It's
Yeah.
good to hear the insights.
Hmm.
Huge thank you, and I think loads of people will be in touch with their feedback. So thanks,
Fantastic.
Mark.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Cool. So I know there's a lot of information out there for everyone to digest. So we're going to have our first kind of comfort break of Gather.